Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we are diving into setting up Jenkins with Docker, SonarQube, and Kubernetes on AWS EC2 instances. By the end of this video, you'll have a fully configured Jenkins environment ready for continuous integration and deployment with Docker and Kubernetes. First, let's set up two EC2 instances on AWS, one for the master and one for the slave. We'll be using Ubuntu OS for both instances. We've chosen a T2.medium instance type for the master. We need to create a new key pair by giving the name and select the .pom format. As I already had my key pair, so I have used the key. And we need to create the security group for our instances with all traffic and can access from anywhere or my IP address. At last, we need to allocate the disk size for our instances. At least 15 gigabits to avoid the insufficient memory to run the Jenkins pipeline. By clicking on the Launch Instance button, we can create the instances and we can modify the names of our instance from the EC2 Instances dashboard. After creating the instances, we will connect the instances with Mobexterm by using public IP address and username Ubuntu and providing the PIN key in the new session. After connecting into the master instance and slave instance, install Java 17 by following commands. Next, we'll install Jenkins by adding the Jenkins repository and installing the Jenkins package. Check whether the Jenkins is installed correctly or not by using Jenkins version. Jenkins is installed. Start and enable Jenkins service. And check the status of Jenkins whether the active or failed. After the Jenkins activated, the default port of Jenkins is 8080. Using the master IP address :8080 to access the Jenkins. After accessing the Jenkins, copy the path and get the initial admin password from the master instance using cat command. Copy the password and get started with setting up Jenkins. After setting up the Jenkins and install the required plugins for the integration from Manage Jenkins section. After plugins installations and install the custom Kubernetes continuous deploy plugins from advanced setting. The plugins file will be in the description. After the installations of plugins in the Jenkins, let's start the installing the Docker. Enable and start the Docker. And check the status of Docker. After Docker is active and running, we will start the install SonarQube from Docker registry by following command. After starting the SonarQube container, access the SonarQube through the master IP address :9000. After accessing the SonarQube, give the username and password as admin. After the login, change the password and get access to SonarQube. Now let's continue with Kubernetes cluster and node by following commands. After cluster creation, let go to configuration of Docker SonarQube and Kubernetes in Jenkins. Then we have create a token in SonarQube on a desired name in administration and user. After creating the token will not visible again once closed, so copy the token and placed in any notepad or sticky note. Now the tools has to be configured in the Tools from Manage Jenkins section in Jenkins. Add SonarQube and Docker tools has to configured in this section. Remember the names which you have given so that the tool names will be used in the pipeline script. Now we are creating the credentials for the Docker, SonarQube and Kubernetes for authentication. For creating the Docker credentials, we have to create a Docker token as we do in Sonar token. Same as Sonar token, we will to commands copy and placed in the notepad. Continue with creation of Docker credential by providing your Docker repository username and under the password give Docker token for accessing the Docker Hub repository. Remember the ID name which you have given while creation so that we will use the ID name in the pipeline. Now, for the Kubernetes configuration, select the Kubernetes plugin in the credential kind, give the ID name, and for the key select the enter directly and go to the master and follow the steps to get the key for access the Kubernetes tool for deploy the application. Now copy the content from the API version to the last line of the content and paste the content in the content section. Now we are creating the SonarQube environment for code analysis through pipeline in system configuration. Now we have successfully configured the Jenkins with Docker, SonarQube and Kubernetes. Let's continue with the create a pipeline script in Jenkins for continuous integration and deployment. This step will get the code for GitHub repository to the workspace. And the second step will do the code analysis with SonarQube environment, which is mentioned as Sonar in the system configuration. Create the project name and project key as test. Third step will build the script with Docker using the Docker file from the GitHub with name as test and labeled as v1. Using the Docker tool and credential ID as doc ID, which I have given while creating the credentials. Fourth step will push the built image to Docker repository. It will execute it as Docker build step. It will create a repository under the username which we have mentioned with the name as test and labeled as v1. The last step will deploy the application in the slave node using the Docker built image and Kubernetes continuous deployment plugin with deployment service.yml file from the Git repository. Now the pipeline script has completed, then click on Save and click on Build Now. Now head to console output by click on the build number to see the output of the pipeline script. To encounter this error, log in the Docker in the master using command docker login username and password as Docker token. And change the permission of Docker socket with the chmod command. After login and change the permission, again run the script by clicking on the build now and wait for the output. pipeline script was successfully finished. The application has deployed in the node machine. We check whether the application is deployed or not. And there you have it. We've successfully set up Jenkins with Docker, SonarQube, and Kubernetes on AWS EC2 instances. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.